Meanwhile, on the Hill yesterday, the House Judiciary Committee heard testimony from former White House counsel John Dean, who's obviously Richard Nixon's White House counsel, went on to write extensively about Nixon and about authoritarians in our government. That was 10, 15 years ago. He saw that the Republican Party was actually turning authoritarian. Saw the indications of that happening. And he's been, brought on various capacities as a commentator. I'm not sure I fully get why. I understand the sort of the thinking, but it really is one-dimensional thinking and too clever by half, I think, by the Democrats to do this. But it may be the best that they could do with Nancy Pelosi, and we will talk about Nancy Pelosi. We have that clip of her at P. Peterson. Right? Oh, God. Anyways, so in lieu of impeachment hearings, we're getting this, which is apparently just to set the table. Now, of course, it did create some attention, and wherever there's attention, there is Milkshake Matt Gaetz. Matt Gaetz loves a slushie on a hot Florida day. He is from the Florida Panhandle, and here he is questioning John Dean. He doesn't do a terribly good job, but he does get humiliated. And how do we know that Matt Gaetz felt he got humiliated? I will tell you after the clip.
Do you have personal knowledge regarding the truth or falsity of a single material fact in the Mueller report?
I think if you recall the first thing I said, I'm not here as a fact witness.
You're here to provide historical context.
Exactly.
And throughout history, you accuse presidents of acting like Richard Nixon, and you make money off of it, right?
Not all presidents, no.
No, but a few more than one.
Those who do act like him, I pointed out.
Let me ask you this question. How do Democrats plan to pay for Medicare for all?
I'm sorry?
Well, I figured if we were going to ask you about stuff you don't know about, we'd start with the big stuff. So do you know how they plan to pay for Medicare for all?
Who? The Democrats, or which candidate, or can you be more specific?
Let's get specific to Nixon, since that appears to be why you're here. Do you believe?
Well, actually, Nixon did have a health care plan.
Good. Well, do you believe if we turned the lights off here and maybe lit some candles, got out a Ouija board, we could potentially raise the specter of Richard Nixon?
I doubt that.
Well,
So now,
sounded much better in front of the mirror, Matt.
Right. Matt Gaetz thought he was, and basically he tried like 3 or 4 different tacks. I'm going to go to this. John Dean may actually know how these candidates are going to pay for their health care, and I certainly don't want that to happen. So let's talk about Nixon. Oh, Nixon had a health care. And they all laughed at Matt Gaetz. And what's even more important than my assessment that they all laughed at Matt Gaetz is Matt Gaetz's assessment that they laughed at Matt Gaetz. And how do I know that Matt Gaetz felt they all laughed at him? Because there is no intern in Matt Gaetz' office who would have made the decision on their own to edit that video and release it and hide the fact that John Dean owned Matt Gaetz in this exchange. Here is the video that has been put out by Matt Gaetz. This is eerie, folks. Eerie. 50,000 people have watched this, and they're missing the part where Matt Gaetz gets metaphorically slushied.
How they plan to pay for Medicare for all?
Who? The Democrats, or which candidate, or can you be more specific?
Let's get specific to Nixon, since that appears to be why you're here. If we turned the lights off here and maybe lit some candles, got out a Ouija board, we could potentially raise the specter of Richard Nixon.
There you go. They cut out that whole moment.
They made it sound as if people were chuckling at his weak joke.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because they got the tail end of the laughter. Here's the part again.
Appears to be why you're here. If we turned the lights off here.
Specific?
Let's get specific to Nixon, since that appears to be why you're here. If we turned the lights off.
Yeah.
Orwellian, man.
Let's get specific to skipping me humiliating myself in a spectacular fashion.
Calling Vic Berger.
I'm
Well,
worried that
forget Vic Berger. This should be all over the news in Florida. I
Yeah,
mean,
that's-
that is pretty stunning that he would edit it that way.
doctor in the public record.
Yeah, it really is. And there's 50,000 people who watched his version already. 50,000 people, and you can bet a lot of those are his constituents.